Yo, I am currently doing a weekly series of inking videos for the month of October as part of the Inktober challenge. For the uninitiated, Inktober is a month-long social media challenge where artists draw something with ink every single day. There is an official prompt that switches up every year and a lot of fan-made ones. Some people use the challenge to draw their own comics or fan art. You can basically use Inktober as an excuse to draw anything and everything you want. But for this year, I have the zesty idea to try and recreate one manga double spread from a series I have read and loved. But only once a week because A, that's all I have time for, and B, I would absolutely kill my hand and my sanity if I had to do these every single day. I won't reveal the rest of the month pieces until their respective videos are uploaded, but for today, I will be drawing. Drum roll, please! Fullmetal Alchemist, a certified classic. I had actually picked a different double spread from the series that took place later on, but then I realized I would have been spoilers even though the series is quite old. So the double spread I picked for today's drawing is from the end of the first chapter. The way the author, Hiromu Arakawa, introduced the characters in the entire duration of the first chapter was just so interesting. So these characters are brothers, but when people hear the name Fullmetal Alchemist, they assumed it was this big hunk of armor here. That's the younger brother. So at the end of the first chapter, Edward, who's the name of the older brother, tears off the cloak and the small shrimp villain then realizes why he has the title Fullmetal Alchemist. The story is way more interesting and in-depth than that than from my lousy explanation I just gave you, but that's the context of the double-page character introduction I'm about to draw. So I'm just about almost done with the sketch over here. I drew this on the leader manga manuscript in the A4 side, which you can purchase at most resellers. It's my personal holy grail for manga and comic drawing. I use it in most of my past projects. Highly recommend. And then I sketched this with a blue Pilot Color Eno pen. The blue lead does make it hard to see on the camera here, but the reason why I picked this specific pencil, if I don't erase the drawing properly, the blue lines won't show on a scanner. So from the start of the sketch up to this point, I have been eyeballing and guesstimating the character and panel placements. I'm not trying to get it to be a complete 101 copy, but I wanted it to be pretty close. The sketching phase is the most time and energy consuming since when I move on to the inking stage, I want to be on autopilot, meaning that all the lines and backgrounds and effects have to be mostly finalized and sketched in before I can call this sketch done. Think of it like preparing the foundation of a house. Without a good foundation, the rest of the house could potentially fall apart. So in short, I wanted the sketch to be as clean and finalized as possible. So the sketch here is done. Might be difficult to see on camera, so I will try to give you guys a closer look. I think the stage took around 5 hours. Anyways, time to get right down to inking. I will be using this black ink over here. This is the Kuretake Zig Cartoonist black ink. Honestly, most comic dedicated inks will work. Of course, you will need this ruler over here. And then for the panel line, I will be using a variety of Copic multi-liner and Sakura micron pen to get those nice solid lines, especially for speech bubbles. And then my main weapon of choice, a G pen. This is a pen that professional manga artists use. This tip here will give a nice line variation depending on how much pressure you put on the pen. As you can see here, there's no true proper way to approach inking. So I usually start with carefully lining up the panels and the speech bubbles first, just so I can have a perimeter on where I draw the characters. So just taking my ruler here and using the micro pen to put in those lines. Getting the speech bubbles done. For the panels and the speech bubbles, I try to go for a thicker ink size, just so that it's more bold and stands out and doesn't blend in with the drawing. Whew, okay, that's done. So now I'm starting with Edward's head over here. I always naturally start with the head first whenever I draw anything, so obviously I ink with the head first. But you could see I'm just really carefully lining those in, trying to add some variety in the line thickness, but My hands are pretty shaky, so it's very easy for me to mess up. So I'm going as slowly and careful as possible. You can see sometimes I'm relining parts of the line art. You can just see from here it's going to take me a very long time to get this inked out, but all part of the process. I remember needing to hold my breath when I had to draw the longer lines, but even as I'm watching, I'm still holding my breath. That's just how tedious the inking is. And that's why I did all the thinking work in the sketch phase, just so I can focus purely on the line work when it comes to handling the ink. Oh my god. Most of his face is done here. Good so far. So yeah, it's just gonna be a very slow, very careful process throughout. So just gonna put a little time-lapse montage here. Oh my god, it's done. Just remember to take lots of breaks in between. Obviously, this is a lot of really hard pen gripping just for me to carefully get these lines done. So my hands were aching admittedly, so just remember to take your breaks too. But the first panel is done. So I'm gonna bring my eraser here and get all the pencil marks out of the way. Also notice in the original there's like this variety of grainy gradient texture and then some gray tone. This was colored in by Manga's green tone. I do have a couple, but they're not the correct colors, so just to improvise on the spot, I will be using my gray Copic markers in place of this green tone. So I think because I wanted a break from inking, I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this panel. So I'm going in with my Copic markers to start with this green tone on the clothes. So just filling it out within the lines here. And now I'm going to start imitating the gradient behind him. So I start with the darker layer on the bottom. It is easier to blend from darker to light when doing these kinds of gradients. So also try to add the white outline from the cloth and the characters. Working up towards the lighter gradient. Almost done. Went ahead and colored in his eyes, and now I'm working on his metal arm here. I really wanted to keep the same white highlight that was in the original, just to give that illusion of a metal arm. I think it's achievable with marker, we'll see. And my favorite part, going in with the black ink. If I went over the line with the markers, I can easily hide it with the ink, thank God. Just going over it with black ink here. After I fill this out, the panel should be completed. Almost done, let's go. Alrighty. First panel is done. Very satisfying to look at. I think coloring and inking this alone took me, I want to say 2 hours. I think it was majority inking. I don't think coloring took that long. So we'll now move on to the bigger hunk of this double spread, which is 3/4 of the page. Ooh, just need a breath before I start inking. I'm sure it's gonna be a lot. ADHD kicked in, so I think I'm gonna draw the chimera in the back first. Going to go from left to right in this case. It's times like this I'm really glad I spent so much time on the pencil stage. I just can't imagine trying to decide on where my pen should go. Okay, starting on Edward here. As always, face first. Finally, my hand isn't blocking so you can see my very careful line work. Gonna speed this up a bit. Gonna take forever if I don't. So jumping between, starting on the speed line that's in the background, and then some of the ripped cloth. Even got part of the leg done. Just gonna be jumping around just until the inking's done. I think the most satisfying part of this panel was doing the textures of that Chimera's back leg. There's just something about when I do the straight vertical line that I like doing so much. You see a lot of it here. Slowly coming together. I think at this point, it was around an hour and a half into inking, just this section. Took quite a long time. My hand was definitely cramping, but gotta get her done. Quickly going in with a black pen, just to fill in those spaces. All closer to coming together. Almost done here, just gotta do the back tail and then all of those speed lines in the back. Woo! I remember taking multiple breaks at the stage, so reminder to always get up, drink water, go on a small walk, take a breather. No way I did this in one sitting. Holy crap, that took roughly 7 hours from start to finish. I honestly did not think I was going to pull the drawing off, but surprised myself with the final results. I hadn't drawn that many male characters in the past, let alone one with a metallic prosthetic arm. I also think I was the most excited to draw that BAM in the background underneath all of those speed lines. I knew I did not have the screen toned effects for the speed line that they used in the original, but the beauty of the challenge is improvising with the limited art supplies I had on hand. Everything from the original drawing was way out of my usual comfort zone, so it was just rewarding to observe everything so closely and study it during the sketch phase. If this here took me 7 hours, I just can't imagine how long the upcoming spreads will take. I just know I'm gonna rest my hand tomorrow and take a very fat nap. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I will be doing the next installment of the Inktober challenge next week, so hope to see you all in the next one and wishing you all an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye!